Have you ever felt that, that invisible pull, that quiet internal voice kind of holding you back even when you're really charging towards huge goals? Maybe you're balancing, something massive like parenthood with the relentless drive of entrepreneurship. And despite all your efforts, there's this nagging doubt, this internal conflict that just, it won't quit. It's like one foot is firmly on the gas and the other is maybe secretly tapping the brake.
Yeah, that feeling, that tension. It's something a lot of purpose-driven parent entrepreneurs know really intimately.
Yeah.
So today's deep dive is into a genuinely fascinating psychological concept, the shadow, and understanding it isn't just, academic theory. It's really a pathway. It can unlock profound personal freedom and honestly business power for you.
Okay, so our mission today is to kind of cut through the noise, right? We're digging into some comprehensive source material, specifically a guide called From Shadow to Sovereignty, a guide for entrepreneurs and also related documents, like one about a learning system called Future You. Think of this as, well, maybe your shortcut to figuring out how to move from that internal friction, that feeling stuck, to a state the sources call purposeful sovereignty. So let's really get into the shadow concept. What exactly are we talking about? It sounds a bit mysterious, almost, dark.
Right. It's a term that Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, really popularized. And yeah, the name itself can sound a bit ominous, but maybe think of the shadow as the unconscious part of your personality. It holds everything your conscious mind, your ego has rejected or maybe just neglected. It's kind of a repository for impulses, maybe shameful experiences, even irrational wishes that you keep hidden, sometimes even from yourself. But the really critical insight here is that these disowned parts, they don't just disappear. They stick around in your subconscious, and they subtly but powerfully shape your behaviors, your emotions, your thought patterns, often without you even realizing it's happening.
So it's not just the conventionally bad or dark stuff then, because I think often when people hear shadow, their minds go straight to, negative traits, flaws.
That's a really crucial distinction. And here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Jung also talked about the golden shadow. But now, this isn't about your flaws at all. It's the hidden storehouse of your unexpressed positive potential. Just imagine dormant creativity, maybe untapped leadership skills, your healthy assertiveness that you've held back, or even like a deep appreciation for beauty that you might have suppressed, maybe because society or family or even mentors told you it wasn't practical or it was too much. The thing is, both these dark and light hidden aspects, they hold immense psychic energy, and reclaiming them, that's absolutely key to living a really authentic and powerful life.
Okay, so the goal isn't to, get rid of the shadow. It's more about integration, bringing it into the light, maybe.
Exactly right. The aim isn't eradication. You can't just cut off parts of yourself. They're fundamental.
Yeah.
Instead, it's about integration. It's about achieving psychological wholeness, what's called individuation. Now, this journey, it's definitely not a quick fix. It's really the definitive path toward a profound, lasting sense of self-acceptance. And yeah, it requires patience, a lot of self-compassion, and a real willingness to truly look at yourself, warts and all.
And for parent entrepreneurs, this isn't just some abstract theory floating around. It feels like a daily lived reality. You're constantly juggling, right? Experiencing this intense tension of opposites, maybe between the nurturing parent side and the risk-taking entrepreneur side.
Absolutely. This creates what the source material called the dual role dilemma. It's a really intense psychological struggle trying to balance those competing demands, and often leads to significant role strain, emotional exhaustion, burnout, basically. And what's really striking is that for many people, success in one role can actually feel like failure in the other. And those unacknowledged feelings, maybe resentment, frustration, even that secret little wish to just abandon one role, those are powerful emotions. And they get shoved down, relegated to the shadow really quickly. And that creates this internal conflict that just drains your energy.
Yeah, and if you're listening, feeling that way, you're definitely not alone. The data here is pretty compelling. A striking 78% of mompreneurs report experiencing feelings of guilt. And we're not just talking about passing guilt. It often ties into these really deeply ingrained societal expectations about motherhood. It creates what the sources call a guilt tornado, just this relentless self-critical internal cycle.
And that guilt is often compounded too. Compounded by really profound, pervasive fear of failure. For parent entrepreneurs, this fear is usually twofold, right? There's the terror of the business failing, which is completely tied up with the fear of failing the family who depends on that business succeeding. It's a tough double bind. It can feel paralyzing.
And beyond that, well, the entrepreneurial path can be incredibly lonely, can't it? Research shows almost half, 48% of mompreneurs feel socially isolated. And that isolation, unfortunately, it just lets self-doubt really take root and, well, spread like wildfire. That deep-seated self-doubt, which affects, wow, 62% of this group, it can metastasize. It can become these core beliefs like feeling you're an imposter or that just debilitating thought that you're fundamentally not good enough.
Right. Then you add in the chronic, often unexpressed fear around financial instability. You combine that with the immense pressure of long hours. I mean, 68% of entrepreneurs work over 50 hours a week. That's huge. And it all contributes to these alarmingly high rates of burnout affecting 34.4% of entrepreneurs. The anxiety, the stress, the sheer exhaustion tied to all these pressures, often you suppress it, right? Because you feel you need to appear strong, capable, always on. But when you push that stuff down, it becomes really potent, volatile shadow material, just simmering beneath the surface.
Okay, so these aren't just like textbook psychological concepts. These specific shadow bits are a daily reality for parent entrepreneurs, and they're consistently undermining progress towards that idea of purposeful sovereignty. So, okay, if this shadow thing exists and we know it's impacting us daily, the million-dollar question is, how do we actually do this work? What's the practical path? How do you even begin to confront these hidden parts of yourself safely?
Well, shadow work, just by its nature, it's an act of profound vulnerability. It really is. So to even embark on that kind of journey, you absolutely need an environment of exceptional psychological safety. Think of it this way. Real psychological safety is basically knowing you won't get punished or humiliated for being human, right? For making mistakes or asking a tough question or voicing a concern. Amy Edmondson at Harvard Business School, she defines it as the belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up. And that belief, that feeling, it's the non-negotiable bedrock. It's the condition that makes any serious self-exploration even possible.
Right, that makes total sense. And the Future You program, which we're looking at today as a powerful example, it seems to aim to build exactly this kind of safety. It does it through three core components, and they seem to interlock. First, there's this reluctant hero archetype that the program leader embodies. So the leader models vulnerability. They openly share their own past failures, business missteps, personal struggles. This isn't just like oversharing. It's giving members explicit permission to be imperfect. It directly counteracts that perfectionism, that paralyzing fear of failure so many entrepreneurs grapple with.
Yeah, that's key. And the second component is the focus-driven tribe. That's the community structure itself. This curated peer group, it directly combats that profound social isolation we talked about. Imagine, summoning the courage to share a really dark or shameful feeling. Maybe it's that constant guilt or the feeling you're an imposter. And instead of judgment or silence, you're met with this chorus of me too. In that moment, the shadow is instantly stripped of its isolating power. It validates your experience. It transforms what felt like your individual shame into this powerful source of collective bonding. It's quite amazing.
Wow, yeah. And the third component's pretty fascinating. It's technological, the AI-powered storytelling coach. So this isn't just some chatbot. It's described as a private, non-judgmental digital confidant. Kind of like a 21st century journal that actually talks back. It apparently uses a Socratic method, lots of questions, to prompt self-reflection and help you identify limiting beliefs. And you do this without the immediate fear of judgment from another person. So it acts as this essential bridge, helping you get clear and maybe build confidence before you even think about sharing with the human community.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to that first step of self-reflection.
Okay, that's a really interesting framework for creating safety. So once you have that safe container, how does a program like Future You actually guide you step by step? How do you integrate your shadow? What's the practical journey look like?
Right. So the program provides a pretty structured sequential process, and it directly maps established psychological stages of shadow work onto its own proprietary tools. It's basically a 4-stage journey.
Okay, lay it out for us. What's stage one?
Okay, stage 1 is awareness. And this is facilitated by what they call the clarity tool. The core principle here is radical honesty. Really just acknowledging the shadow exists without judging it, just seeing it clearly. So the clarity tool prompts you to articulate your current status, the truth. And this means actually putting words to those uncomfortable truths you might have been avoiding. Maybe it's debt, maybe it's that persistent guilt, the imposter feeling, or just exhaustion bordering on burnout. This simple act of naming it, it brings that unconscious stuff into conscious awareness. It effectively stops denial in its tracks.
Right, you have to see it before you can do anything about it. Makes sense. So once you're aware, you need to understand it better, right? Get to the why behind it.
Exactly. That leads to stage 2, investigation. And for this, they use the 7 levels deep exercise. This is basically rooted in root cause analysis. It's pretty similar to Toyota's famous 5 whys technique, if you've heard of that. The objective here is to really understand the shadow's origins, its deeper motivations. Why is it there? So the exercise guides you to repeatedly ask why, like peeling an onion, right? You strip away the layers of intellectualization until you hit the emotional core. For example, if you're chronically procrastinating, asking why multiple times might lead you from, say, fear of failure, all the way down to a core belief like, I'm afraid I'm not good enough. And this helps you understand the surprising, sometimes hidden positive intent behind many shadow behaviors. Procrastination, for instance, might actually be a subconscious way of protecting yourself against perceived pain or disappointment.
Interesting. So you see it, you understand its roots.
Right.
Then you have to actually face it. That sounds like stage 3. I'm guessing that's the hardest part for many people.
It often is, yeah. That's confrontation, and they use the one big thing tool for this. The principles here are cognitive restructuring and exposure, basically facing the fear. The objective is to directly confront a core fear or limiting belief that you've identified through the previous steps. Now, this tool doesn't let you off the hook easily. It forces you to precisely define the dragon you fear, your self-doubt. Then articulate the absolute worst-case scenario if you face it, and then, crucially, create a concrete, actionable plan to tackle it head-on. This could mean finally raising your prices, maybe having that difficult conversation you've been dreading for months, or truly delegating a critical task you usually hoard because you don't trust anyone else. It shifts you from avoidance into proactive engagement, and that builds real confidence.
Okay, that sounds intense but powerful. And then how do you bring all of that together? How do you make these confronting moments, these maybe difficult realizations, into something enduring and, well, positive?
That's the final crucial stage, integration. And for this, they use the success loop tool. The guiding principle here is narrative reauthoring, which draws from narrative therapy concepts. The objective is essentially to reframe your shadow experiences, those challenges, those perceived failures, and see them as sources of strength and wisdom. So the tool guides you to select a specific past challenge, maybe a failure, or a hard realization, the shadow event itself, and then to consciously alchemize it. You actively identify new capabilities, new strengths, new wisdom that were born directly from that struggle. For instance, maybe a devastating business failure gets reframed as the crucible that forged your resilience, or that parental guilt you felt becomes the catalyst for finally establishing non-negotiable family boundaries that serve everyone better. It really embodies that idea you hear from modern shadow work practitioners like Debbie Ford or Connie Zweig. The gold is in the dark side.
Wow, that's a journey. So what does this all mean for you, the listener tuning in? What actually happens when you've done this deep, challenging, but ultimately it sounds like transformative work?
Well, the rigorous process of shadow work, it isn't really an end in itself, right? It's a means. It leads to a profoundly different way of being and also of leading. It leads to what the sources call purposeful sovereignty. Maybe imagine driving your life with both hands firmly on the wheel, seeing the road clearly ahead, instead of having one foot on the gas and the other subconsciously hitting the brake all the time. That's kind of like purposeful sovereignty. It's the fundamental right and also the capability to truly govern your own mind, to consciously direct your emotions, your beliefs, free from those unconscious distortions pulling you off course. And for leaders, this means your actions start being guided by your authentic, integrated values and a really clear sense of purpose, rather than by those hidden, unconscious fears. This state emerges naturally as you reduce that internal conflict. It liberates immense psychic energy, and that energy fuels creativity, strategic thinking, resilience, and truly purposeful action in the world.
And thinking back to the parent entrepreneur, this directly resolves that dual role dilemma we talked about earlier, doesn't it? That feeling of being pulled in two directions.
Exactly. The parent entrepreneur stops seeing their roles as mutually exclusive, as warring factions. You start to create a new unified identity. You realize a business can be profitable and deeply aligned with family values. It's not either. You can model ambition and purpose for your children without being consumed by guilt. That core conflict starts to dissolve, and it ends that chronic, silent energy drain that so many people experience.
So drilling down a bit, what are the tangible benefits for this, let's call them sovereign leader, in their actual business?
Okay, well, a leader who has done this work, who has integrated their shadow, they're no longer a puppet to unconscious forces, right? They move from being an unconscious driver to a conscious creator of their reality and their business. This shift is really rooted in a profound increase in self-awareness. And there's extensive research on this, including a big Korn Ferry study of almost 500 companies, showing a direct, powerful correlation between leader self-awareness and leadership effectiveness, and ultimately overall business performance. These self-aware leaders, they exhibit higher emotional intelligence. They tend to make more sound ethical decisions. They build deeper levels of trust, both with their teams and their clients. And they're much more adept at fostering that psychological safety within their organizations we talked about earlier. Essentially, your business stops being just a vehicle for profit, or maybe driven by ego needs, and it becomes a true, powerful, authentic expression of your integrated self. And that is the ultimate form of purposeful and sovereign impact.
This deep dive has definitely given us, and hopefully you listening, a powerful glimpse into this whole transformative process. But of course, the journey of integration. It's a lifelong one, isn't it?
Oh, indeed. It's not a one-and-done thing. For those seeking to go even deeper, the source material highly recommends several foundational texts. These include Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols, Robert A. Johnson's really accessible book, Owning Your Own Shadow, Debbie Ford's The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, and also Connie Zweig and Jeremiah Abrams' collection, Meeting the Shadow. Great starting points.
And are there other psychological models that complement this work?
Yeah, they highlight one in particular, Internal Family Systems, or IFS, developed by Dr. Richard Schwartz. IFS views the mind as having these various parts, like inner family members, and also an undamaged core self. And within that model, shadow aspects can be understood as exiled parts, the ones we've pushed away, or protective parts that develop perhaps unhelpful coping strategies. It aligns really beautifully with this journey toward purposeful sovereignty.
Interesting. And looking forward, do the sources suggest ways programs like Future You could evolve?
They do. They point to some exciting future directions. Things like explicitly framing shadow work within their curriculum as transformative leadership development. Also developing dedicated modules specifically focused on integration to sovereignty. Enhancing the AI coach's capabilities even further, maybe to guide users through each specific integration stage we outlined, and curating really comprehensive resource libraries. Basically all aimed at deepening the support for this profound inner work.
Right. So when you boil it all down, what this deep dive really shows us is that the path to true entrepreneurial success and genuinely powerful leadership, it isn't just about external strategy or market forces. It is profoundly about the internal work integrating those hidden, sometimes uncomfortable, but ultimately powerful aspects of ourselves.
Absolutely. And maybe if we connect this to the bigger picture, just imagine it for a moment. Imagine the kind of impact you could really make, not just in your business, but maybe in your family, your community, the wider world. If you were leading not from a place of fear or fragmentation or needing to prove something, but from a place of complete wholeness and authentic power. What would that look like for you?
Something to think about. What stands out to you from this deep dive today?